That we're going to get into. Garrett Shrader grading out well, but there's still some concerns with his game. We'll discuss all of that. Also, some basketball stuff. A little more drama on the Dior Johnson front. I thought this was over, Tim. I thought this was over.
It's never going to end. Never.
It's never over. It's never over. He's going to be a 15-year NBA vet, and there's still going to be Dior and Syracuse drama. We'll get into that. Also, an update on JJ Starling as well. That's all coming up on the Locked On Syracuse podcast.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in and happy Wednesday to you here on the Locked On Syracuse podcast. I'm Tyler Aki alongside Tim Leonard. We thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Syracuse, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Watch and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Also, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. That includes Apple Podcasts, where we got a recent review, Tim. So rate, review the show. We will read your reviews on the show. This comes from Scott Rue. This was a good one. This was a 5-star review. Right. We only read the 5-star ones. We read the 5-star ones. So if you rate us 5 stars, but you can write whatever. We'll read whatever. You just got to give us the 5-star review, and then we'll read it on the show. This is from Scott Rue. He says, must listen for Cuse diehards. Great intel on all things Syracuse, and Tim and Tyler are informed and interesting to listen to. Great way to keep up on all Cuse sports with great debate and inside knowledge. I listen almost every day now. Keep it up, guys. So we will keep it up for you, Scott. Appreciate the review. Appreciate the kind words. We're also on Spotify as well, so be sure to subscribe to the show. Also, check us out on Twitter at @LO_Syracuse. Today, we're getting into a little bit of the nitty-gritty here with Pro Football Focus, as we like to do on most Wednesdays. And let's just start with Garrett Shrader, because he actually had a very, very strong grade in this game. A 79.5 is what Garrett Shrader graded out. That was the highest of any Syracuse player. And looking offensively, I mean, not a lot of offensive showing in this top 10. They're taking 3 of the 10 spots here, and one of them is Courtney Jackson. And I think I've made my voice pretty clear on how I thought he performed in that game against Florida State. I don't think he performed as one of the 10 best players on Syracuse, but that's neither here nor there.
He wasn't that bad. I mean, come on.
He had a couple Jackson. Of seasons. He played like Courtney Jackson. Let's put it that way.
He's got.
But Garrett Shrader, highest individual grade he's had at Syracuse, highest he's had as a member of the Orange in FBS competition as well. I mean, at the end of the day, he had a lot of really positive things, especially on the ground.
Yeah, look, I was very excited to see what his grade was going to be, because I thought, watching back the game, I always try and guess, all right, who's going to grade well? And these grades are just one thing we look at. We've talked about this before. There's eye tests. There's other variables. These grades aren't spot on, and touchdowns inflate it, just like they inflate overall statistics. And Garrett Shrader happened to get, a 1-yard touchdown where he reached over after Sean Tucker kind of set them up. Maybe you could make a case that maybe his touchdowns are inflating this grade a little bit, but I really thought he was going to get a very strong grade, and this supports it. This is the highest grade from anyone so far against FBS competition that Syracuse has gotten individually based. So 79.5, that's not like, that's probably like a 93, 94 in classes and in school. Like, that's a pretty solid PFF grade for a quarterback.
Yeah, I would say I would say it's like a B+-ish, because I feel like you almost graded out a 90. Anything above a 90 feels like you're getting over and 100% on the test. You're nailing the test answers, and you're getting a little bit of extra credit too. I feel like this should be graded almost like baseball, how they do the 90 scale or the 80 scale, whatever it is. Yeah. But yeah, no, it should almost feel like you're getting a grade out of 90 here, because anything above 90, you went above and beyond, and you were playing like one of the best players in the entire country. So this feels like a B+, a very high B+, that maybe you go to the teacher and you ask him or her to bump you up to the A- after.
Right. And I think he was, especially in the second half, he was so much better than he was against Liberty. And it wasn't like he was terrible against Liberty, but he was pretty bad passing the ball. In this second half, we saw him actually make some throws once they got him out of the pocket on the roll. He made some nice throws. I mean, the touchdown to Anthony Quealy, I think anyone could have made that pass. Like, they joked on the broadcast that everyone in the Florida State Stadium and Doak Campbell just got really quiet because everyone realized how open Quealy was, and it was a busted coverage there. But I think a lot of what this grade is his running of the football and his ability to get out in the open field, break tackles. Some of those runs, I know Jordan Travis did a lot of it too on the other side, a little bit different sort of style. But the way Garrett Shrader ran was like as good of a quarterback running performance that I've seen. And that includes some really good Eric Dungey performances. I think Dungey had probably some better ones and some more fearless ones maybe, but Shrader was right up there. That was a dominant rushing performance from a quarterback.
And another thing, too, to consider here is the fact that, and this is what happens with PFF, I believe, too, is they take into account a little more of the eye test here. Garrett Shrader threw an interception in this game. Looks bad on the stat sheet.
Who cares?
It wasn't a real interception, though, right? Like, it was an end of first half Hail Mary. That's not a real interception. And that's why I always say interceptions should almost be graded like errors in baseball, right? Where you almost want an official score. That's not an interception that should count. There's balls that go off of receivers' hands. Those should not be on the quarterback. Your interception should almost be like an ERA for a pitcher to a degree.
Yeah.
And in this case, this is an unearned interception.
The other thing I was thinking about is the thing that Garrett Shrader did in this game is I think he earned the faith and the trust of Syracuse fans, because this was the first time we've seen him get to a sort of a tipping point where fans were like, gosh, this guy stinks. I'm ready to get rid of him. And then he sort of proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, not sort of, he did in the second half by putting together that comeback, battling, making some great plays with his legs when everyone was sort of down and out on him. And for me now, just watching him as an observer, I am now more sort of apt to say, all right, he threw a pick there, but that's fine. He's going to do some of that. He's going to make a winning play for us soon. And I'm more apt to sort of stick with him now, which I sort of lost all sense of that with Tommy DeVito. But that was something that we always had with Dungey, right? I'm not comparing the two. I know he's got a long way to go to get to Dungey's level. But I feel like, we would see Dungey make some boneheaded plays or like run into traffic and get hurt or something. And everyone has sort of had an athlete like that in their life where they've been watching them and they're like, gosh, that guy, he does stuff like that every game. Why does he do that? Why is he still making those mistakes? But with Garrett Shrader now, I'm more apt to sort of take those mistakes in and be like, all right, it's fine. Like, he's going to make up for it because he's a gamer.
The one thing, and there still are some concerns with Shrader as a passer here, and a lot of it comes from within the pocket, but the accuracy is still a problem with him. You need to still get him out of the pocket, because you look at what he did throwing the football here, all right? He only threw for 2 first downs in this game. That is a number that needs to be a lot better, especially against Wake Forest, who's a big-time offensive team that you're going to have to get into a little bit of a shootout with, I'd imagine. And then on top of that, of his 13 completions, 5 of them are screen passes.
Yeah.
So that number has to get better. And then the other one was the wide open play to Quealy. So about half of your completions could have been made by DeVito. All right, let's just put it for what it is. Half of your completions in this game, at least half, could have been made by DeVito. So you still need to prove yourself as a passer, or otherwise there might be a chance that you see Tommy spell Garrett if there are some struggles at times throughout the season. A couple other things that I want to note too from this, the pressure stuff and the blitzing. All right. Significant drop-offs. Again, you're going to see drop-offs most of the time when you get pressured, when you get blitzed. But then there are certain quarterbacks that actually perform better. And the problem with this is, with Syracuse's offensive line, we hark on this so much, you don't need to blitz to get pressure, because the offensive line just cannot stand up to most of the tests that most defensive lines bring.
Yeah, and looking at those numbers, 43.7 grade when he's blitzed, 84.4 without a blitz. And then even the pressures, he drops from an 82.4 grade in non-pressure situations to a 63 grade in pressure situations. That kind of surprises me that it's that big of a drop-off, because Tommy DeVito had a similar type of drop-off, and I think we can all agree that it was pretty obvious to the eye test that it passed the eye test that he was struggling under pressure. I'm not saying Shrader looks great when pressure is coming, but I would have guessed, just based on his scrambling instincts and his ability to improvise, that has been sort of an asset so far, that those numbers wouldn't be that far off. So I'd be interested to see if maybe the sample size, as it grows larger, as he gets a little bit more sort of, gets his footing more in the offense, maybe those numbers will shrink and not become that big of a disparity. But it is concerning.
Well, I think part of it too is when he is pressured, it comes when he's in the pocket. He is not pressured when he gets on the outside. And that's when you see some of those big running plays. You see some of their bigger chunk passing plays as well. That's when he's on the outside, when they roll him out. When he's in the pocket, that's when you see him get pressured. That's when you see the defenses get to him. So that's the one thing I would note out of that. All right. Thanks so much for making Locked On your first listen every single day. Coming up, we're going to get into a couple of defensive things here, as well as go through some of the other guys on this thing. We've only hit on the quarterback so far. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline.ag. They are back and better than ever with all eyes on the gridiron as teams are back in full swing for another football season. BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for all things football. Do what Tim and I do. Get all your weekend wagers in with betonline.ag. Head on over to the website or use your phone and sign up today, and you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is punch in our promo code Locked On, and you will get a 50% welcome bonus on that first deposit. Again, promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers that they have available for the upcoming seasons. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's take a look at some of the defensive efforts from PFF in this game. Really taking up most of the top 10 in this contest against Florida State. Checking in at number 2, no surprise here, Deuce Chestnut. He played a fantastic game. Really, the secondary is littered all across this top 10 board. 2 is Deuce, like I mentioned. 3 is Eric Coley, who actually made a couple of really nice plays in this game. Garrett Williams had a couple of nice spots, too. He was 4th. Marlo Wax at 5th. And then the next 5, Michael Jones, Courtney Jackson, Cody Roscoe, Kingsley Jonathan, and Aaron Service. So looking at this, I'm a little surprised by an omission of one player, and that is Chris Elmore. And I think part of it had to do with how he was utilized. He actually appears in the bottom 5 performers of this game. But I think it was more of how he was utilized. I think they look at him in the passing game.
I mean, that's got to
they look at him in the passing game too much. He should never be utilized in the passing game unless he's a blocker.
Right. Yeah, he's a tough guy to grade, I would imagine, if you're PFF. Yeah. Now, I'm sure they're grading his blocking, and that's a big part of what he does, but it's sort of he's just a weird role that he's playing that it might be tough to sort of figure out a formula for him. I was a little surprised that Sean Tucker didn't grade that great in this game because from watching, I think Sean Tucker was like mid-50s, which was in the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 there for Syracuse players in terms of the grade, but he's graded pretty well throughout the season. So that was a little bit surprising.
Usually one of their best. I think with Sean, the thing with him is he didn't break a lot of tackles in this game, which is one big way to elevate your PFF grade. And it's not his fault, though, because what he's been doing a lot of this year is winning one-on-one battles with defenders. He didn't have a lot of one-on-one battles. It was a lot of 2 or 3-on-1 battles with Sean Tucker. You're not going to win those as a running back.
Yeah, he also didn't score a touchdown, I don't think, right? And he joked in his tweet how he stepped out of bounds at the 1, and that just can't happen. He's going to clean that up for us. Nope, he was never pleased with his performance. So hopefully we get a different tweet this week where he says he is pleased with his performance. Always love those Sean Tucker tweets. But also with Deuce, highest graded freshman, true freshman cover corner this season in the country, and that's factoring in every game. He has really lived up to the hype. And I had some friends texting me that were watching that game, and they were like, who's this freshman cornerback? He just made the most ridiculous play I've ever seen. They're not even Syracuse fans necessarily. So I think he's getting to the point where he's getting some buzz. I mean, that play had to be on SportsCenter top 10, I would hope. If it still made some waves. And it was unbelievable to see him make his second interception this year. They really haven't had a ton of picks, but he's gotten his hands on the football a good amount for the amount that Syracuse has had as a team. And I think he did sort of have a rough game against Liberty, if we're being honest. He got burned on a couple double
Him
moves,
and Garrett, really.
Yeah, right. So good to see them bounce back.
I got to take a quick look here at the interceptions. Let's see. He is currently, it looks like he's 3rd in interceptions right now in in the conference. What is that? Yeah, third in conference right now. I remember my bold prediction at the beginning of the season was that he would be leading. He would lead the ACC in interceptions. He's third right now. He's behind Catrell Clark from Louisville and Jermaine Walker from Virginia Tech right now. They each have 3. So one of my bold predictions is already out the window. All right. It was Taj Harris will be an All-American this year at the receiver position. So that's out the window already.
DeVito's going to have a big year or something like that.
That is also out the window. Yeah.
Yeah. I said they were going to be a running team. Sean Tucker, 1,000 yards. That's looking good. So anyway, those are bold predictions for you. You hit some, you miss some, I guess.
Yeah. Looking at the overall coverage grades too for Syracuse, it was their season best this year, 87.9 as a coverage unit. I mean, that is acing the test right there. They weren't tested a whole heck of a lot against Jordan Travis.
It wasn't a pop quiz that they aced. Right. It was a pretty easy test, but still.
I still think that number might be a little bit deceiving too, because Florida State, when they got into some of these formations, like when they were going with the trips wide left, they had their ways. They had a bunch of different options out of that formation with screen passes, seams, some go routes here and there, some stuff over the middle. I think that there was still a little bit left to be desired. There were a couple of times where I feel like they dropped some balls too that should have been had. I mean, even the Deuce pick, like it was an amazing play, but it was a blown play by Florida State. And you saw Jordan Travis get upset. He yelled at his tight end right after, like, what are you doing? Because that tight end was supposed to put a block on Deuce so he can't jump that route. And Deuce puts a little juke move on him like a running back.
Right. So, watching back the game, I know you did it too. There was a point when I was watching back the second half and I was like, man, when was the last time Florida State threw the ball and completed a pass? It's crazy. I guess that's how they feel about Syracuse too, probably to an extent, but they really didn't test Syracuse a ton. And to continue with that comparison, I mean, that was maybe like a gym test or health class or something. This week against Wake Forest for that secondary, it's like your AP exam or some big final coming up, because this is a totally different test. And I will say Rob Hanna, Jason Simmons weren't great in tackling. They did not grade great in this game. And, Jahad Carter's been out. Eric Coley's been stepping in, playing pretty well there. I still have some slight concerns over the tackling in the secondary. And once guys get into the second level, and Wake is a team that could expose that.
And Justin Barron had a rough game in this one. He's one of those guys who I really liked how he played against Liberty, not so much against Florida State. He missed 4 tackles in this game.
I think I said Hannah. I meant Barron. Sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, and then Jason Simmons also missed on one. Jason Simmons also didn't jump on that one fumble, which he should have. I mean, that might be the first time ever I have seen a defensive back see a ball, a screen pass that goes incomplete, and a defensive back not jump on the ball. And isn't that the most annoying thing that you see in football is like anytime there's a screen pass that's incomplete, usually it's an incomplete pass. This was actually one of the rare times where it wasn't an incomplete pass. It was a true backwards pass that could have been scooped up for a fumble. And Jason Simmons didn't go after the football.
Right. Yeah, he had that bad missed tackle on, I forget their backup running back's name, but when he took it
Treshaun Ward,
yards. Yeah, thanks. So that was probably the biggest missed tackle of the game. And honestly, Syracuse did well to prevent that from being a touchdown.
Right. And that's the thing that plagued this team last year. What did we say with nearly every single defensive back when we were doing our top 5 previews? Was we said they need to shore up the tackling in that second level with this secondary. And for the most part, it's been pretty good. The missed tackles have been way down this year, but you're starting to see some of that get exposed once again this week.
Right. I also think Wake, looking ahead to them a little bit, and we'll talk more about them as the week goes along, but they take chances down the field. They will throw some deep balls, and that's where the secondary hasn't necessarily, I mean, last couple games now, we've seen dual threat guys, and the concern has been, can we keep them in the pocket? Can we contain them? They did a good job against Malik Willis. He did take some shots, and any team is going to take some shots on you, but Wake is sort of a different animal in that regard.
Yeah, we're going to preview Wake Forest on tomorrow's show, so be sure to make that your first listen on Thursday. But let me tell you about college football's best way to get in on daily fantasy. It is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leader in college sports daily fantasy, and they offer more props than anyone in the world. All of stars from the Power 5, as well as mid-major players that you've never even heard of. I mean, You can get like Devon Cooper stuff on Prize Picks. We didn't even know who Devon Cooper was at the beginning of the season. They get you yardage, touchdowns, even picks. So any user that goes on and uses the promo code Locked On, you'll get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $100, you're going to get an extra $100 to play with. You just got to use our promo code Locked On. Pick 2 to 5 players, select some over-unders on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. You can even cross sports as well. Once we get going with basketball season, you can get in on a little Buddy Boeheim 3-point prop, maybe a little Garrett Shrader rushing touchdown prop. You can mix it all together and you use it on Prize Picks. So use their award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. Super easy, and it's safe and offers fast withdrawals. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code Locked On or go to the App Store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy.
Also want you guys to check out Built Bar because it is the best tasting protein bar ever. And that's not just me saying that because I have to say it. It is Tyler and I's favorite protein bar out there. We are always so excited when they get delivered and they come, and all our favorite flavors, so delicious, so good for you. Built Bar has 9 great flavors to choose from, plus the occasional limited time flavor. And right now, that limited time flavor, have you tried it yet, Ty, the cookie dough chunk?
I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on it.
I know. I have one ordered that is coming, which I will give a full review, Dave Portnoy style, when it comes, I guess, because we've been hyping this one up. Cookie dough chunk is the limited time flavor. You also got coconut, cherry, raspberry, peanut butter brownie, which we love, salted caramel. There's kind of a flavor for everyone. You can do a mix box, so many different ones to choose from. And most of these flavors have 17 grams protein, only 130 calories, only 4 grams sugar, and only 4 grams net carbs. They are good for you, and they are delicious. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your first order. Again, use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com.
Time for a little bit of Wednesday hoops, as we like to give it to you here on this Locked On Syracuse podcast. Every single Wednesday, we're going to splash in a little bit of basketball as we get closer and closer. We're under 5 weeks to go until the season starts. 5 weeks.
Man, that's crazy.
Less than a month. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
I'm so excited. Tim's so excited. So we're going to splash in a little bit of basketball every single week for you here on the show. And this week we go to some recruiting stuff where the Dior drama continues. And he did an interview with Eric Bossi from 24/7 Sports. And I love the title of this article. I don't know if you noted what the title was.
I forget.
It says,
it was like aired out or something.
It's
like
most hated or misunderstood. 5-star
Oh,
Dior
God.
Johnson goes in depth, part 1.
Player
I feel like you're not allowed to use the words most hated without the emoji of like the guy with the smoke coming out of his nose, like huffing and stuff like that. But anyway, so Dior kind of gives the dish, and Eric asks him the question: you made an early commitment to Syracuse, but you decided that wasn't going to be the place for you. What made you decide that you need to explore your options more? And Dior went in depth. He was very candid with this answer. I'm going to be bluntly honest with you. If you want me to, and I want to do it in a respectful way, me and the assistant coach's relationship was great, that being Jerry McNamara.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
mostly
the same relationship with the whole program. You know, it is a great program. It is just the relationship wasn't where I wanted it to be going into college. I wanted to have a real close relationship with my head coach and have it be like how we are talking on the phone right now. You know, coach calls me, I call him before I come and stuff, just building a great relationship and getting to know each other. I don't know if I had that over there, but I don't want to take anything away from anybody. Also, and this is a really sort of interesting part here, when I was young, I wanted to go there, and it could have been a great situation for me as kind of the hometown kid. I was thinking like that they'd have to let me come there and do my thing, and I'd not only be playing for me, but playing for the school, the coaches, everybody. It's a team sport. One thing about me is that I grow by the week, so I think something today and the next couple of days, if I learn something different, it can change. I learn on the fly in basketball and in life, but I told myself a year later that I don't want to go back to New York. Not because of me, because I know I'm going to stay out of trouble and that I'm going to work, but I don't want to put myself near my home. I didn't want people who might make me steer off. I'm a young kid, and some people look at me as this hot commodity to go back home. Things could have gotten tricky. I wanted to be smart and not put myself in those situations. So he wanted to go to
Yeah.
Syracuse. That was the dream
Right.
school, it seems like, for him all along. And the fact that it
Mhm.
didn't happen, obviously tough for Syracuse fans. But again, it seems like this was some sort of friction between Dior and Jim Boeheim.
Right. Which, so I struggle with this because one, I think it's awesome that Dior is honest here, right? Like, I'm never going to knock someone for being honest in a situation. The other thing is, I struggle to criticize Dior Johnson because he's what now 17 years old and he's been in the limelight his entire life. And, you know, when we were 16, 17, when some listeners that might be listening right now were 16, 17, maybe they would have done stuff that they wish would not have been in the limelight. Now, he does bring a lot of that on himself, but he's a kid that's growing and learning. I don't really take much from this. I mean, it's his side of things. Jim Boeheim is probably past his prime in terms of
he'll respond to this somehow.
He will respond, yeah. But I'm saying, like, and not past his prime as a coach or a recruiter, but he's not going to be, you know, knocking down these kids' doors like he was when he first got into the industry. I mean, it's just unrealistic to expect that. So maybe he's not constantly calling him, and that's just not probably ever been his MO. And I don't think that's really a knock on Boeheim, really. I think this is a kid who probably had Syracuse in his mind as his dream school. I think it was sort of a little bit of a surprise when he first committed to the coaching staff. We heard some rumors about that, and that makes more sense sort of reading his explanation of it was always in my head. That was go home. It was a big deal. He probably had it in his mind for a while. He decided to go there without really thinking about it too much. And then boom, like he's decided that Jim Boeheim wasn't the right coach for him, and that's fine.
I think the problem here, though, is that, and maybe he's not the player that Syracuse wanted in the program. Okay, that could be it here, and that's why Jim Boeheim didn't have. But then, why offer him? If he's not the player you want in your program, why offer him?
Well, maybe they didn't know that at first. I mean, they offered him very young, and he's a really talented dude, and he clearly had some interest. Plus, there's a difference between offering and pursuing and offering. And it seems like, which it doesn't really make sense, but it seems like they maybe didn't even pursue him a ton, and he decided to commit just based on one little offer and talking a little bit with the coaching staff.
But it seems like that, I mean, he says he had a great relationship with GMAC. If you have a relationship to that degree with an assistant coach, there is some sort of pursuance there. And it's frustrating to me because from a talent perspective, you want Dior Johnson on this team, in this 2022 class, right? And I think it'd be good for the brand of Syracuse to get back into the 5-star market consistently, which we haven't really seen out of the past couple of seasons. So right. I'm looking at it from...
I think they didn't know exactly what they were offering, and it's impossible to know that. Like, it'd be like if you were looking for, if you were wondering if you'd be a compatible friend with someone, when you first start hanging out with them, maybe you'd say, like, you know, like you maybe be at the point where you're offering a friendship in the first couple weeks, but then a year later you find out, oh, this guy's actually really not that good of a guy. And I think that's maybe what sort of happened here with the Syracuse staff. Like, GMAC sees a top 10 kid, he has to pursue him. There's some real interest, and then maybe as time went on, he realized he was kind of a headache.
But that's when I feel like as GMAC, that's when you shut off too.
And maybe that's what happened. I mean, right? Like, it seems like Boeheim wants you to think that, at least, that it was a mutual thing.
Yeah. Again, Boeheim's going to have one side of the story. Yours going to have another side. It's probably going to meet somewhere in the middle on it. So we'll wait and see on that. We may never know on that too. One other thing, JJ Starling, it's looking like he's going to get to a decision very shortly as well. Crystal ball coming in a couple days ago for Notre Dame. It's a low confidence one, but I think it's notable where it's coming from. It's coming from one of the Duke insiders as well. And it felt like Duke was kind of in the driver's seat here for JJ. And now you've got a Duke insider, albeit a low confidence, but giving a crystal ball to JJ Starling.
I wouldn't rule it out that he's coming to Syracuse, especially because in that article, which I think was on SI.com, he talked about how he's really like still in the process of making up his mind. And I think he said on a scale of 1 to 10, his stress level is a 20 on sort of figuring this out. And it's a tough decision, I'm sure, but I would say Notre Dame right now would be my guess based on that crystal ball. And then I do think Duke had some strong buzz at one point, and now the playing time window has kind of closed there a little bit. So Syracuse is one of the schools that's definitely on his final list here. I just haven't heard a lot of Syracuse rumblings lately to make me confident that he's going to pick us.
Yeah, it just feels like they've kind of been phased out. I'm with you. I'm not confident. It could be like a Stanford, it could be a Maryland or something like that, but it probably isn't going to be a Duke, just because John Shire has loaded up that 2022 class spectacularly. I mean, there has not. I'm going to say. I mean, he's not only picking up where K left off. He may have like slightly improved from the past couple of K cycles. Like this is as good of a class as they've had since the Zion, Cam, RJ class.
Right. It does seem like Malik Brown, who visited Syracuse this past weekend, is definitely interested in Syracuse. I wouldn't say it's a done deal or something, but I could see him committing to Syracuse soon based on sort of how his visit went and everything. So that would be exciting.
So with Peter Carey, Justin Taylor, Kadir Copeland already in the class, there's only a handful of spots left. There might not be any spots. They might be done. There might be, I would say, no more than one more guy that they're going to get. But the names to watch now.
I think they could do two. But again, we've disagreed on this. So
yeah, I just think Jim Boeheim likes the transfer portal a little too much to not go that route. But so the names to watch now: JJ Starling, Chris Bunch, Malik Brown. Am I forgetting anyone? I feel like that's pretty much the three right there.
Yeah. I mean, other guys could pop up. I think there's definitely guys that they're sort of monitoring, but the amount that they're still pursuing those three guys makes me think that they're cool with getting to 5, and that would be a good number for them. It wouldn't shock me if they got to 5.
All right. Well, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to get into some Wake Forest stuff. How does the Syracuse offense match up against the Wake Forest defense? Could this be a real shootout possibility? We'll talk about all that stuff on tomorrow's show. Maybe also take a look at the gambling line and the total as well for this game. And then, of course, Friday, we'll get you all of our picks, DeBundo's digits, prop shop, all that stuff. Get you a little more intel on this high octane Wake Forest offense as well. Thanks so much for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. Go check out Locked On ACC as your second listen on this Wednesday. They'll get into all sort of stuff there. I think they do a lot of quarterback and power rankings on the Wednesday show for Locked On ACC. So go check that out. Go see what they're saying about Garrett Shrader. Thanks so much for listening. Tim and I will be back with a full Wake Forest preview tomorrow.